It's a special place that gives kids living with disabilities a sense of belonging. A horse centre that's been running for 60 years. But the rides are over after a charity of all things decided to shut it down.
What do we want?
Save the horses!
When do we want them?
Now!
They've gathered on a busy road in Brisbane's west to try and save this horse riding centre for kids living with disabilities.
What was your reaction when you heard what was happening here?
Absolutely devastated.
Horrified. Horrified.
Heartbreaking, frustrating. It's just so sad to think that it might not exist anymore.
The centre was started by a local family 60 years ago and ran successfully as a charity by fundraising and using volunteers. That was until it was gifted to not-for-profit group Help Enterprises 6 years ago.
Within a month of taking over, they closed the op shops. They started moving volunteers on.
So help is no help.
Well, you could say you could say that.
John Williams is from Lyons, which he says has donated more than $100,000 and hours of free labour to the centre. Now it's closed and Help is selling off the assets, including the horses.
But my concern, Chris, is these are not exactly racehorses. And what if they don't get rehomed? Well, where do horses that don't have a home end up?
Yeah, exactly.
That's not okay. They could be here now. They could be operating here now if they'd only turned to this community. Look at it. Look at these people.
You would not think that a charity could behave in this way and not understand the impact that it would have on the community, the volunteers, the children.
Chantel says her son was one of dozens of kids who benefited from the centre, and she's worried about what will happen to the horses.
There's been no transparency over where they're going. The stories have changed.
I'm hoping that they have been rehomed, but a lot of these horses, they were old, they had medical conditions.
Lisa says her son started at the centre earlier this year.
It took the horses to get him engaged in an activity. Everything else he just can't tolerate doing. It demands too much from him. The horse my son was with had Cushing's disease. They needed medication, they had arthritis. What else do we do with them?
Diane O'Neill used to volunteer here.
I very much fear where they will end up because they are trained to do something different. They are not trained to stop horses.
Right, so then, yeah.
So I'm worried about where they've gone. And I would take some if I had that opportunity.
In a statement, Help Enterprises CEO Denver Fresser says the welfare of the horses is paramount and we are making sure they are cared for. The statement says 4 of the horses have been rehomed and the rest will be sold through private sales. Mr Fresser also says the centre closed because of the significant gap between NDIS fees for service and operating costs.
And how does this work? How can they be gifted this and then sell it?
That's a very good question. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that they're doing anything legally wrong.
Doesn't pass the pub test?
No.
And they've already sold some of this land?
They have sold 2 blocks over there, for which they have received some $850,000.
Help boss Denver Fresser rejects any allegations of financial impropriety, but perhaps the last word should go to Susie Seapool.
I started riding here when I was 6 years old. As a young disabled kid growing up, there weren't that many things that I could be a part of, and coming to the centre, found a place where I could belong.
Susie went on to compete in the Paralympics.
It's where my Paralympic dream started, so it's meant a whole lot to my life, and it's been with me my whole life.
Such a shame to see it close.